Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Florida Hockey Bros podcast. I apologize about all the reverb in the recording. Currently moving out. Anyway, not that anybody cares, but yeah. Let's review the trade deadline. We'll try to go beyond the Florida Panthers. So any Panther fans, stay tuned to the end of the episode. We'll go over in detail all the moves that Bill Zito made for the Panthers, and as far as the rest of the league, we'll try to recap as much as possible. There was a goalie trade right now to New Jersey. From the Sharks. Yeah, I thought it. Yeah, there was a couple of trades recently, but anyway, we know the big ones. Guentzel. Being traded, Tarasenko to Florida, Vegas getting away with murder. So anyway, where do you want to start, Dario? I would say let's start with this. Besides the Panthers trades, which one would you say is your favorite? If you were a fan of any other team, which one of those trades would you have been happy with? The Carolina, the Vegas?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few, it depends on how you're looking at it. And Vegas getting away with murder, like you said, obviously if you're a Vegas fan, you're very happy, though they've given up a lot, especially in that Thomas Hertl kind of surprising trade.
Two first rounders, I think.
No, it's just one first rounder, but it's 2 third rounders plus David Edstrom. And just quite a bit of a pick haul. And they give up a little bit on the Hanifin thing. I guess they're trying to Hertl is on the contract, and Hanifin, I guess they're trying to extend, so that would justify the investment. I mean, Guentzel's an easy one because you give up sort of a conditional first that's kind of more of a second round pick, really, and a fifth, which doesn't matter. And then Bunting, who they've been wanting to get rid of, I guess he was never a fit even from the beginning after that contract. He's a wild card and takes a lot of penalties, and I guess not everyone's a fan. And, they have a very strict system in Carolina, so he probably doesn't fit there. But, you kind of flip them right now with a bunch of prospects that may or may not work out. I've been hearing that the prospects are not like elite prospects. So, I don't know what, how Dubas is. We'll see. He likes to make the splashy trades, but are they going to be good trades? Probably most of them, probably not. So anyway, Guentzel's an easy one because Carolina definitely needs a scorer, and that definitely adds that to them. Now, it's probably a rental. I think they might try to work him out. That's an easy one. I like the Toffoli one a lot. And the reason I do is that a third round pick this year, a second round pick next year for a rental at 50% retained for the Jets, a team that needed a scorer, and he's a proven scorer and a guy who's going to play hard and people like as a fan favorite. Like, perfect trade, perfect fit. To me, that's kind of a steal for that price, given that everybody was talking about first rounders for all these guys, and with salary retention to make it work. So the Toffoli one to the Jets, kind of surprising. Did not see the Jets being the ones. I thought that maybe it would be the Kings, but worked out because they could fit him in. I have to say I really like that one. And then from the other ones, anyway, there's nothing else that was like, wow, that was incredible. Some smart moves, Henrique to the Oilers makes sense. Tarasenko to Florida makes sense. A lot of we need that type of guy, and we went and got that type of guy. Trade. The Bo Byron case in Middlestat was very surprising. Kind of a swing for both teams there.
I'll say from what experts have said, the Sabres won that trade. Middlestat is not. I think I forgot who said that he only has 20-something hits this season. He's not like this playoffs.
He's not a gamer. Yeah, he's more of a perimeter scorer.
And the Sabres now have basically like 22 years of average on their D-line.
So. Yeah, I mean, the only thing we buy him is the injuries and stuff. So I'm thinking that's probably part of the issue. And then you got to pay him. I think you got to give him a contract. So we'll see what, and to be honest, like the only thing with the Sabres is like they have that guy already. They have Owen Power, they have Deline, they have, I think, is it Samuelson? They have like 3-4 guys that have some skill offensively, and that's not their issue. Their issue is can they defend? And so maybe a different coach. I do think they need to move on from Coronado or whatever. But no, is it Granado? I said Coronado. I'm like, anyway, it's like it's just dumb. Anyway, you're muted, so you can't make fun of me. But yeah, I think I really liked the Toffoli one, just kind of because it was kind of unexpected in terms of the team and the fit. It's really good. I'm not going to say the Panthers, that's kind of cheating, but we'll talk about the Panthers in the second, like after in the second segment. But yeah, I think those are the ones that, you know, some of the trades are simple and kind of make sense. I didn't see anything that was like confusing to me, other than the Thomas Hurdle that came out of nowhere. I think the Rangers loaded up pretty good with Wenberg and Riedel that they added. So, you know, and then Roslovic or whatever. So yeah, the Rangers loaded up. They're definitely going for it. They should, because they're a little bit older. Tampa kind of doing the obvious with Duclair and Dumba. They're not great like playoff guys in my mind, because they, you know, Duclair is not a physical player and Dumba can turn it over and be a bit of a wild card. But what Tampa needed was skill and scoring in the middle six. Duclair definitely brings that, and he actually had a decent run with the Panthers last year. And then Dumba, they needed somebody for Sergachev, and I think Dumba brings that right hand shot sort of depth for them. And you know, they can afford to bring the wild card skill guys with a little bit of toughness in Dumba's case, because they have the structure, they have the pedigree. They just needed to add like more. They had too many of the same guys in the bottom six. A lot of like we did last year. A lot of fourth liners playing like middle 6 minutes. So just to add that sort of flashy speed with Duclair and the Dumba skill, it's kind of a good move, I think, for them. And then the Bruins kind of made lemonade out of the lemons, because they don't have a lot of space, and they brought Andrew Peak, who's just a death move for defense, and then Pat Maroon, they do need a bruiser, because I saw with the Leafs yesterday that even though it was a very physical game and they won, the Leafs actually won some of the fights and kind of got away with a little bit of physicality, and they're not the most physical team. So I was like, they seem to be missing that like Gadjevich guy, you know what I'm saying? That, and so I think Pat Maroon is going to be in some of that, because I think he's a champ. So anyway, just like there's a bunch of trades, obviously. I think Jake Allen to the Devils is a bit of a settle-in because you couldn't get Markstrom. I think Allen is okay, but I don't know that long-term he'll be a great goaltender. And then I saw that the Flyers added Gurianov, which I guess is more of a depth move, and then Eric Johnson, who's a vet, to replace Sean Walker. You know, just to see if they can make the playoffs and maybe just make it more difficult for people. So anyway, yeah, those are the ones. I'll talk about. I'm gonna put the Leafs aside, because you know we're Leafs haters, so I want to talk about the Leafs for a little bit. But just looking at the rest of the trades, those were the ones that stood out to me.
Yeah, I think like Vegas is the one that stands out for me. And I mean, I think Carolina did very well, considering they didn't trade any of the top prospects. I thought that the Bruins and Tampa, like you mentioned, there wasn't much they could have done, and they did okay. I'm not going to give them too much credit, because I think the Leafs were kind of in the same boat, and they also, I think they did really bad. They just added a little bit of depth, but yeah, I really like what the Panthers did. We'll get into that, but I think like Vegas for this year alone, they're kind of going all in. The only thing I would say is like this is probably, you know, it's going to be the toughest year for any of the Western teams to come out on top. I think there's 5 or 6 teams there that can absolutely get to the finals. The Canucks, the Dallas Stars, Vegas, the Kings can still get there. By the way, the Kings were going for Ullmark. Did you see that?
Yeah, it almost happened, but I think the Bruins got cold feet last minute.
Yeah, it was for Dubois. It was going to be Dubois and another player for Ullmark.
That's the wrong guy to get for the Bruins. I know they have the culture, but Dubois is a poison. I mean, listen, they're trying to get rid of him that quick. That's all you need to know. And it's not just the points, man. I mean, he's never been a high performer. That was part of the conversation when he got traded, is that, you know, I guess you were projecting him to get more points. and to be better in the right situation. But he's not the right guy. I know they need a center, but not him, man. They should have tried to get another center. I know they couldn't pay because they didn't have the space, but be patient. If you're the Bruins, maybe in the offseason you can add somebody or trade for somebody, but not him. He's not. Anyway, just my opinion, but I don't think he's the right guy. And in Allmark, it's still on the contract. I'm looking it up. He's still on the contract for next year. You can trade him in the offseason. You can be more patient, take your time, get some high picks, get some some good players, but not a guy who could be a wild card and kind of set you back if he doesn't work out there. It's just not a good sign that they just made a huge trade for him and they're willing to move on. And I know Allmark, it's a really good goalie, but again, a guy who came in a little bit more recently. I don't know long term if he's going to be your number one year over year all the time. Swayman has kind of taken his spot. So anyway, there's value there, but yeah, wait till he and Bushnevich and like some of these guys are like off-season trades. Like when you have more time and you can work out like a very smart trade on both sides. This will be kind of a panicked trade, and the Bruins need both goalies because their defense is solid but not super deep. I mean, they added Andrew Peak, who's not a playoff proven guy at all. He's still young and kind of underperforming his skill. And they added Pomeroon. They don't have a lot of depth still on their team. They have a big injury in the top six. That's going to set them back. You're going to need the defense and the goalies. So keep him for the run and then trade him in the offseason.
Yeah, I think that'll be smart to do an Allmark. That wouldn't have been the right return for him. I mean, he's the number one goalie anywhere he goes, and goaltenders and right-handed D-man are the man right now. So the Leafs just acquired Connor Doer, because he's a doer.
No, well, if you want to get into the Leafs, I'll say just to wrap up, I'll let you go with the Leafs first, but to wrap up, because I don't want to, I know if anybody's watching this, their team probably made a good trade and they didn't even mention it. I'll say I'm frustrated from afar by the Predators because they are the new Panthers. Like they're kind of like trying. They got Beauvillier, which, at this point he's been traded twice and, okay, maybe another scorer to have. And they do need some depth on the top 6 or 9. And then they added Jason Zucker and for only a 6th-round pick, which again, for the Coyotes, like they pay all this money to this guy. And then, there's no salary retention, so you get him off the books, but you only got a 6th-round pick for him. Anyway, all these teams are making kind of business, like collecting picks, trading players, getting money, and like there's no plan. There's no like legit plan. I know the Coyotes have some talent, but look how quickly they fell off. They got Zucker and Beauvillier to that team, and I'm like, okay, you need a little bit of scoring, but it's like middle 6 average kind of guys. Are they really going to put you over the top? Yeah, you didn't give up much. Are you really trying? Maybe they're waiting for the off season. Anyways, that kind of team that's kind of in the bubble, 8th place, the Panthers used to be, and kind of make a move or two to make the fans feel like they did some. Who knows? Maybe they prove me wrong and still around, But I just those kinds of moves. I'm like, if you're gonna make a move, man, like don't go after Zucker, don't go after Beauvillier, like put those picks together, go after one guy who's better, that can put you at the top, and like you need a bit more depth at center, like maybe go after that. So anyway, just kind of frustrating just to see them like tick by with, it's a recognizable name people know. So their fans are probably thinking, we added a couple dudes, but I think that franchise could do a lot better, by bringing some other guys in. And then I think Colorado just like went crazy, man. I know they've struggled lately and they're panicking. I think Vegas too. I know that they could do it because of the cap. Some of those moves could bite you in the ass if you don't win, because you gave up a lot. Thomas Hertl is already 30 years old, still 6 more years on that contract. He's hurt right now. I know they keep losing, and that's why they panic. And Colorado has not looked great, and it's been allowing a ton of goals. But they redid their bottom 6 basically, and then moving away from Bo Byron for Middlestat. Like, is that going to be the better move? Is your defense better now? Your goalie is still an issue, right? Goaltending still an issue probably, because you've overplayed Georgiev. So they kind of feel like going for it, kind of panic moves. And everybody said that, most of the contenders have been giving away picks and prospects. So there wasn't a ton to give away. That's why some of these trades don't involve as much as you would think, because then people don't have things to give away. Like Tampa can't make any big moves. Even the Panthers needed Tarasenko to work with the team, and then Okposo was kind of a steal, and we didn't need to do the salary retention, so that helped. 7th round pick that could turn into a 5th. We have an extra 5th this year, so I don't mind giving that away if we win the cup. Yeah. Okposo has a $500,000 bonus included on his contract, pre-existing contract, if he wins the cup. So he's incentivized at 35 as a leader, hasn't been to the playoffs in a while, so he's hungry. And to get him for a 7th round pick and an AHLer that we replace right away off waivers, like it's again, Cito had an easier time because he had 2 guys that were easy to get without giving up much, and didn't give up any prospects, any our 2nd round the next year, which is the only thing we have. They have to give up any of that. So anyway, it's tough, man. We'll see. Solid moves all around. We'll see.
Yeah, I think all the top contenders did something. I think, like you mentioned, the Avalanche and the Knights were maybe the most aggressive in the last couple of days. The Colorado did get rid of Ryan Johansson, who apparently
he didn't work
very toxic and was a big issue in the locker room. So they attached that to that 1st round pick for Sean Walker. Walker was in the Leafs radar. So let's transition to the Leafs. Just looking at like what some of the some of the players went for. Dumba, even Sean Walker. Like I know the Leafs only had like 1 1st round pick or whatever for the next few years, but yeah, let's get into that because that's such an interesting case. We're not trying to hate on this episode. We're gonna just kind of just say what like everybody's thinking, what most of those fans and pundits and that organization and TSN and Sportsnet, they know it and they already think it and they can see it coming. Dubas really fucked that team, and I think Shanahan really like they like double teamed the shit out of that organization and just destroyed it with those contracts. Like Nylander did not need to sign when he signed. You could have waited till after the trade deadline. You could have waited to see what your team really needed. But anyway, my audio sucks, so I'll let you just speak on it. You're gonna say it better than I will anyway. So Maple Leafs.
Yeah. It's funny the thing that you said about Johansson being Kens, because they waived him right away, sent him to the AHL, I think in Philly. They were like, we don't want you in this locker room. They're trying to make a run here.
It was just someone they had to take to get a 1st round pick.
Yeah, exactly, to be able to get that 1st round pick. But yeah, how a guy can ruin his own career. There's a bit of talent there. But anyway, with the Leafs, man. So, I'll say Tree Lemon did have his hands tied. I do think he didn't have much to give away. And I think coming in as a new GM, you could be tempted to give away your top 2 prospects. I mean, Minton's still a wild card. He might, his top, he's going to be a middle 6 guy at most, a third liner. He's been kind of oversold, in my opinion. I think Cowan has the potential to be a legit top 6 player, but again, juniors to pros, you just really don't know. And some guys could take a little bit longer. We saw with Owen Tippett, in Florida, kind of struggling and all of a sudden takes off. I mean, he's a pure scorer. He's not let's not get it twisted. He's not an elite player, but he's a really good piece. So anyway, I think that for them, he was hands tied. And once he's deciding not to trade that 1st round pick or the prospects, and obviously not nice, he's not going to get much in return. There's just no way to do that. You're already behind compared to other teams. And in some ways, I think it's a smart move to be patient because these teams got to prove themselves. He already made the moves. He brought in Ryan Reeves for the 4th line. He brought Domi and Bertuzzi to add depth to the forwards. Klingberg didn't work out. That's a bad move by him. I do think that that's a poor move. And even Bertuzzi and Domi might prove to be poor if they don't get out of the 1st round. But at least he tried with some names. And now he's added, I think, 2 physical defensemen, which, they could use. I mean, they had Luke Shen and they lost. And I think they also, bro, can you mute yourself? Your dog is barking. He's asking me to shut up. He's
Oh,
telling me that.
you can hear? I thought I was muted this whole time.
No, you weren't muted. I can't hear them. Anyway, yeah, man. I think adding those kinds of physical guys, I get why they did that. They got to block shots, kick people out of the net, kill penalties, but they're not very good at coming out of their own zone. Like Edmondson is not good at all. Lyubushkin is, and even I would say Benoit, who's been oversold again because he had a decent run. These three guys are not great guys to get the puck out. Even McCabe, I think, can turn it over. And then Brody, kind of his performance going down this year. That decor is not great. Liljegren, it's a mess. Giordano's old and hurt. Who knows if he's going to come back? They just lost Lagesson, who got picked up on waivers. So, I think that they haven't committed to an identity. They're just adding roughness outside along the edges with these guys, like they've done the last few years, and that has been proven not to work because then the journeymen have to pick up the slack. Look at yesterday, Domi and Bertuzzi and trying to fight McCabe, but none of the main guys were like in the scrums, right? And really, really fighting and really like showing up. And Matthew was a ghost yesterday. Nylander had a terrible game. Marner was one of them who tried, but he's not a physical guy at all. What's his name? Second line center, Tavares. He also like.
He's in the third line now.
He's in the third line now. I know he's having a crisis of confidence. Also, not a physical guy. He's not going to get into scrums. So anyway, all to say that I think they're just trying to add those guys to take care of that, and I think that will count for something in the playoffs. But they're also going to struggle to come out of the zone. Their possession metrics are not good. They're going to turn it over, especially Lyubushkin and Edmondson and Benoit. We know that McCabe turns it over, and McCabe now is going to think he's like an offensive forward, that he's Montour, because they brought a bunch of defensive guys. So he's going to be like, "This is my chance. I'm going to go pinch in. I'm going to go like fly, like Riley does." So I don't know. I don't get the rhyme or reason to the moves, and the fact that Edmondson's a left-hand shot still puts him in a tough position. He's going to have to play on the right probably, and that's going to be advantage whoever plays them. So that's where I'm at with that. And then Connor Dewar, because I saw the trade before we came on to record, I looked him up, and he has 10 goals, so he can give you some scoring. And the bottom line, he's 10 minutes a game. He's a fourth liner, can kill penalties, so they do need some help because they're not a great penalty killing team. But his possession metrics in the last 2 years, he's only been in the league for 3 years. Just start with that. His possession metrics the last 2 years, bro. Last year was terrible, like in the 40s. And this year they're in the 30s. And again, I know like analytics, some people don't care about that. The dude's small. He's 5'10", 180, 85. He's not a big guy. And so kind of a Max Domi type guy, I guess. And you are adding a little bit of scoring, but not maybe a lot of defense, even though he can kill penalties because his possession metrics are just awful with the Wild. And the Wild are not a great team this year, but they've been known as a defensive team, and they were kind of trying to make a run again. So the fact that the possession metrics are so bad for a fourth line, that are supposed to be a defensive line, it's not great. So anyway, just kind of. It's just because this is what they could get for the price, right? Like the pick was from 2 years from now. So they're just trying to add like bodies. And that's the other reason why I think the rhyme or reason compared to the other teams and the moves that other teams make, it's where I'm like, is this really making a difference? Are you just making a trade for the sake of making a trade? If you don't trust your own team, the guys you have on the bottom six, what have you built? And why is this guy going to be the difference? Like, I don't see Connor Dewar is going to be difference. Maybe he will, but I just don't see that. Whereas, Kyle Okposo, the Panthers got, who's a center, a captain, he's probably going to play on the wing, probably going to play on the fourth line, though he was still getting third line minutes. He is incentivized to win the cup for many reasons. He's still a good player. He's physical. He's fast. He has some touching. Has 12 goals and 22 points. I think. He's a leader he's going to be a leader in the room. You can kind of see the logic why Cito is adding that depth, even if it moves Cousin out of the lineup or if Poso becomes the depth forward. He can play in that middle six and probably be better than Cousins for sure. We can see he's a better scorer than Cousins. He's got like over 40 points like 8 times in his career, hit the 60-point mark, has 20 goals scored like 4 times. You can see why a guy like that, the upside to try to win now, and then Tarasenko because of the fit, and you needed that 5-on-5 scorer. The same with Okposo. So anyway, you've boosted the offense. You kind of have addressed certain pieces. With Toronto, the physicality is an issue, but it's more than the physicality. It's not the physicality with the other guys. Because Bertuzzi and Domi will annoy you and fight you and all this stuff, and McKay will fight you, and it's more about, can the main guys show up and go in front of the net and battle and get hit in the face and come back and score before in front of the net. And that to me is why this moves by the Leafs are kind of.
Yeah, I think there's a huge misconception, especially from their own fans, on the grit aspect of a team. Barkov is not a physical, greedy guy. Rodriguez is not. Reinhardt is not.
Even Verhaeghe.
Verhaeghe is not.
Verhaeghe's not a fighter.
Even Lusterinen is not. Like, the Panthers are not packed.
Rondeau's not a fighter.
They're not packed. They're not full of a bunch of fighting, greedy guys. They just understand the game and what it takes to win.
Cousins doesn't fight, bro.
When it gets tight, Tkachuk doesn't fight.
He'll fight, but he'll fight the right guy.
He'll fight
like Bertuzzi yesterday. He'll fight the right guy. Yeah. I mean, but that's that. I don't hate that. Like Bertuzzi, he beat the hell out of that guy. He's some Witherspoon, whatever defenseman. The guy didn't want to fight. He's not a physical guy, or didn't look like one. But that's okay. There's this Tkachuk is not going to fight. He shouldn't fight. Why would you lose Tkachuk fighting? A fourth liner or a huge defenseman, unless you lost your mind. Forson's not going to drop the gloves. Montour might, but Montour's not going to go out of his way to do that. But to your point, the difference is not so much the fighting. I mean, the fighting doesn't help in the playoffs. It's, little fighting, getting a 5-minute mayor if you're a top player is not smart in the playoffs. So I'm not saying Matthews needs to fight, but, I'll let you make your point about Barkov. That is the difference, right? So it is about fighting. It's about the willingness to battle in front of the net and on the boards, which Lundell and Lusty and Rodriguez and Barkov and Reinhardt, they do that. Verhaeghe throws hits every shifts. He hits you. He goes after you. He'll steal the puck from you.
Yeah, and it's my point is that you need someone on the line to drive the line to kind of get it going. The one player that everybody looks for if they need to pass it along the boards, that's Barkov, right? It is in the power play and it is on his line. If he's open or on the boards, they're going to pass it to him because he has the vision. He knows what to do with the puck. He rarely turns it over. And that's the point. Matthews and Marner don't have to be, beating anybody up, man. They just have to battle on the boards and make plays. The problem is that Marner is just going to make pretty passes to Matthews so he can score. He's assisted him on most of his goals. And that's it. If Matthews is not scoring, he's not part of the game. If Matthews, most 1Cs in the league don't need to score in a game to bring value or to have an impact. And I think that's the point. Matthews, Marner, Nylander, you don't need them to fight. You don't need them to, hit everybody. But you need them to forecheck and backcheck and not cheat and not be skating out of the zone like Nylander has done 100 times this season, because that's what the coach tells him to do, which is funny. And then when he does it on his own, it's not okay. But if you look at the way McCabe and Riley pinch in on so many plays, that's clearly an offensive tactic that Keefe wants to employ. So, yeah, I think there's just a huge misconception, man. I think that the whole thing from, we hear on Kipper and Bourne all the time, it's just a constant, it's getting so annoying because they keep thinking oh my God, Reeves fought a guy. That was great. Who cares, man? That's not what it's about, It's about your top 6 forwards being able to forecheck and being able to push people around and just get through that difficulty that is the playoffs. You're gonna get goal lead in the playoffs. Everybody does. You're playing the top teams in the league. So yeah, That was just my only thing about the.
Yeah, I think they don't
Leafs.
realize that unless you have the right opponent, which in the West last year we saw in their first few series more open hockey, right? Because even Maurice said it, like, compared to the Bruins, what the Panthers were facing, which is like the Bruins is constant physical, like in front of their nets, brutal. And I mean, you saw it yesterday. That team is like they're not going to fight you. They may not win the fight, right? They don't have a ton of fighters, but they're going to hit you. McAvoy's going to hit you in front of the net. McAvoy put a nasty hit on Montour and Tkachuk last playoffs. Ekblad broke his foot in that series. They're going to make you pay, right? In front of both nets and on the boards. It's always hip checking. It's always shoulder checking. It's always like going after you. If they can hit you, they're going to hit you. You got to watch out for Marchand or he'll injure you. Like that is one style of play, and that's just the way in the East. With Tampa, with Florida, with Bruins, that's where you're going to get. You get the Red Wings, you get a pass, right? They're not going to hit you as much. You're going to get more of an open series if you like the player. So if the Leafs and Red Wings played each other, the Leafs are going to win that series easy. They're going to score 7 goals a game. They're going to win 7-4. Only because the Red Wings are a less talented version of the Leafs, in my opinion, right now. And so that is what we saw when the Panthers played them. The Panthers completely owned them because they were trying to keep up with the physicality. They were trying to do the scrums. They were trying to fight. Ended up with Larkin injured, lost the game, couldn't even score. It's not their game, right? They're not built that way. But they only get through a series in the playoffs. The Red Wings do if they get the Leafs and they get lucky, right? Maybe the goalie is hot or whatever. But I don't see the Red Wings getting by one of these very tough teams unless like some really bad luck happens or an injury or whatever. So, or the other team for whatever reason doesn't try. But all to say that I think just a certain style that's proven to at the end of the day work. That's why Vegas made it far. Even Dallas plays a little bit more physical in the playoffs, even though that's not necessarily their style. The Oilers are pretty physical in the playoffs, even though they have a lot of skill. Kane is a menace, and they have some defenders that tend to hit you, So to me, that's the thing. You have to understand that, your guys just have to be willing to take the hit. It's almost even that, like just Barkov takes more hits than gives hits, but he's big. So he uses the frame. He takes the hit on the board, protects the puck, gets it out. All of a sudden, the play's alive. Matthew needs to do more of that. Right? And he'll do that once or twice, but he won't do it for a whole game less for a series.
No, you can set your eyes on Matthews, and like he's really good at finding space and getting the one-timer off or scoring. He has an incredible shot. I mean, but yeah, he's just not playmaking and creating for Marner or Nice. I don't even
and the
know
teams are prepared for that, man.
Yeah, they're gonna shut him down. Like just target Matthews. One thing that they don't understand is last year Tampa didn't really do that. Matthews and Marner went off on Tampa, and they still could have lost the series. So,
well, Tampa was the better team 4 out of the 6 games, and Vasilevsky objectively had a bad series. So those two things were the main reason.
Yeah, that should be the Lightning's main concern.
And the Lightning need to clamp down if they face them again. I mean, the Lightning are not going to be easy no matter who plays them. Even if we have to play them, like it won't be an easy series at all. I'm never surprised if the Lightning win because they're like a roach that doesn't die. But they're more beatable now than ever. But than the last few years. But yeah, man, I think that's. Anyway, with the Leafs, it's just funny that they're not willing to have that conversation. And also, I will say they have their own coach. They don't have the coach. I know that you don't have to go all the way to Mike Babcock, who's also not a good coach, but can you find somebody with experience like Maurice, like one of Cassidy, somebody who can command respect in the room, demand more of the top players, even if you piss them off a little bit? Yelling at Nylander like a kid on the bench, it's just trying to embarrass him. Nylander's probably tuning him out. He turns it over yesterday, and then goes right away on the power play. Like you build that culture the way that the Panthers did when they had that meeting in December and said, like, this is the way. You guys get with it, or you're going to move you, or you're not going to fit here. And then you brought Tkachuk and you brought the right top players to help lead. So this is where trading Nylander or Marner, maybe not Marner because of his skill, but Nylander, man, like he's flashy and shit. And I know in the playoffs they say, oh, he does well in the playoffs. Yeah, he scores a goal here or there, but like he's not a killer in the playoffs. No one's afraid of him. So it's okay to trade that guy for an elite defenseman and some other, some depth, which you need. Like, you're not going to score 7 goals in the playoffs like that. I mean, they have done against Tampa, because some of those games get wild, but when it counts, it's overtime games. It's 2-1 games, and that's what the Bruins are going to give you. That's what the Panthers are going to give you. So anyway, just their moves are kind of funny. But we can talk about the Panthers because, fuck the Leafs.
Yeah. Let's close it up with the Panthers. Tarasenko added to that top line. I think it's just a really smart move. It's going to take a few games maybe for them to start clicking, but there was already a couple of plays yesterday where that top line looked good. He's an experienced player, so, a lot of teams run similar systems. So I think he'll adapt pretty quickly. Poso, of course, is a depth piece. He's probably going to play on our 4th line, maybe our 3rd line. But really what he does is just give us flexibility with rotation. Gadjevich, Lundberg, Cousins, they can all kind of rotate in and out. You can rest players the last week or so of the season without, having to bring up every AHLer that you have. And it's just depth for the playoffs. We get to carry those extra players. I think it's just a really smart move. You were very, very big on Tarasenko and Okposo. You were texting me those 2 names basically the last 2 weeks on what you think the Panthers could do based on the cap space and what they really needed, So yeah, let's go on the Panthers, man. Go ahead and give us your thoughts on the whole.
Yeah, it's funny how, I told you that my top picks would be Tarasenko, and then, there's a plan B after him. Pacioretty would have been, and we'll stay pat, just because he's got the experience and the scoring touch, and would have been okay to add. But then in terms of the bottom 6, I think Okposo, I really like because of the veteran presence. He could play center and wing. He's a scorer. He's fast for his age, and kind of a big guy who can play on the boards. I saw a few of the games with the Sabres lately where, you see him on the boards, and he plays really well, and he's even played on the power play. So, to add that to your bottom 6, he's just better than Cousins, I guess what I'm trying to say. To me, maybe less physical. He doesn't hit as much as Cousins, but we have a lot of guys who hit, right? So that's the other thing. Like, also hitting gets you injured in the playoffs too. Like, you can't just be going out there, and you're going to be smart about how you play, pick your spots, and you have a balance per line. And I think Okposo to the bottom line, Lundberg can play a bit, but mostly likes to hit and chase guys down. Gadjev is the same. Stanley is more of like a defensive player and sort of face-off guy with size. Okposo just gives you that depth. And if Stanley struggles, if he's taking a lot of penalties like he's done lately, Okposo can step into that center line and give you some of that. And if you need somebody to go and play on the second line with, Kachuk and Bennett, because somebody gets injured, then Okposo might be that guy instead of Lusty or Cousins, right? Who's smaller and Okposo can give you more scoring when we need it. So that's why I really like them. And I also thought that they could get maybe him and Eric Johnson together, because I've been talking about that with you. Maybe they'll have to give up a little bit more. They would have to probably trade Cousins as part of that trade, or somebody else with some picks, some higher picks, to get some salary retention to make it work. Because I thought that Eric Johnson could be the perfect 7th defenseman for the run. But I think they really like Maher. I think they feel good with him. They might even want to keep him long term. He's been okay when he's played, and he played all 82 games last year and all through the playoffs. He's very durable and reliable. So I think they don't hate him as a 7th guy. And then we have Balinskis in the minors, who showed a lot of talent, and they already signed for next year. So they really believe. And even Cito mentioned him in the presser that he did yesterday, I think it was, where he said Balinskis for going forward, to give them that flexibility with some of the cap. Because they really are thinking, I think they're including him as like a bottom pair defenseman, maybe taking OEL spot next season. He's our best defenseman by far in the AHL right now. So I think he they don't mind him better than Fitzgerald, better than some of these other guys as an 8th option. So anyway, I think that Cito made the right moves. I think he brought the 2 guys that we needed. I think they helped the 5-on-5 scoring. It will take a little bit of time for chemistry. That's normal. We have the luxury of being in a position. We don't need to finish in first place, first of all, in the East, and probably shouldn't because of bad luck. But we have a bit of a ramp here to get these guys acclimated. Probably going to win some games anyway. And I'm with you. I think Tarasenko looked good with that first line. There was a little bit of immediate chemistry there, and at least reading off each other. He got a couple of really good shots off. You can tell he's a quick shooter, which I like. He can get the puck to the net real fast. Because, Verhaeghe is more of like Verhaeghe is a sniper, but Verhaeghe is not like a one-timer or like a quick shooter. He's more of like he needs that wind-up for a wrister, and he just knows how to find the angle. Like, that's his thing. Tarasenko is like, yesterday I realized, like, he's a big guy, but he just gets it off so quick. The last shot with 2 seconds left, I didn't even think he could get it off. I thought he was going to get it blocked, and that went all the way into the goalie. So anyway, I like that he has that quickness, and that's probably why he scored 30 and 40 goals a bunch of times. And that he's a big guy who can take a hit on the boards. He made a couple of good defensive plays, taking hits on the boards, not being afraid to take the hit first to protect the puck, which is what you're supposed to do. Didn't do anything fancy, anything stupid, and he moved off the puck really well. He was really trying to find open spaces to get the shots off, which I really like when a guy's active like that, because then it frees up the defense. And yes, there was a bad game by the Panthers anyway, so that was not a great measuring stick. Very sloppy. The second line was terrible. But anyway, I like them. I like what we saw so far. They're going to probably get some practices in the next couple of weeks. So, maybe he plays a bit in PP2.
They're gonna ease him into the power play and the penalty kill based on what Maurice said. But I'm pretty sure he's gonna slot into the second power play, maybe even the first. Might
be better than Verhaeghe. Who knows?
Yeah, and they might try him out on the right wing, even though I think he's a lefty, right?
He's a lefty. So if you move Barkov to the left, which I don't like, because I like
you mean Reinhardt.
No. So the way in my mind, Reinhardt plays in the middle. He plays in the bumper. Like, I know he moves, but Reinhardt plays in the middle.
You're talking about the power play. I got you.
Yeah. Talk about power play, bro. And then Barkov on the right with Kachuk down low. I like that setup because you can move around. You can kind of go behind the net. They use behind the net a lot. The question is Verhaeghe's spot. This is the only spot he could take. He's not going to take Reinhardt's spot. So, but he's still a lefty. So it's not a one-timer, but he has a quicker shot. I know Verhaeghe has gotten some goals, so I'm not trying to hate on Verhaeghe, but he's a little bit bigger and maybe honestly, I would just try it. I was 2 games, like say, hey, put him on PP1, see 5 to 7 power plays with him in it, see how it looks in practice, and why not? And the reason to also try it is that if Verhaeghe gets in here in the playoffs, then you just slot him in, right? So I would say they're probably going to try him. Because why not? You have the luxury of toward the end of the season to see what it looks like with him there. He's always been a power play guy, so he's not a huge power play scorer, but we'll see, man. We'll see.
Yeah, they'll try him out. I think he'll stay on that top line as long as there's chemistry there, and then we'll see how they fill out the rest of the lines if they trade Lawrence or Cousins or anybody
they can't trade anybody at this point, so they'll have to waive. So I think
Lawrence, that's right. They'll have to waive.
Lawrence is as good as waived for roster.
That's right.
Compliance.
That's right. Trade deadline is over. So yeah, man. Let's see how it looks.
Think about this, bro. Cousins and Gadjevich, likely, or Okposo and Gadjevich are your extra forwards. Like, they don't get to play. Like, 2 of these guys are not gonna. Gadjevich was looking good. Like, they, 2 fourth liners who likely, in the case of Cousins and Okposo, could play on the third line. Like, they actually don't get to play. That's how deep we are. Let's hope that we go into the playoffs healthy, because we're gonna need that depth.
Yeah, we need to stay healthy. One last thing on the Panthers would be. It looks like Pacioretty was going to get traded, but he turned down both deals due to his no trade clause.
I'm curious about the teams. I had a theory about that when I saw that, because I did read that they told him that there was somebody who wanted him and he could waive it. So that the deal was in place.
It's crazy because it's multiple playoff bound teams. So it's 2 different offers from 2 playoff teams.
But I don't think it was contenders. I read that the Red Wings wanted a veteran forward. I think the Red Wings were one of them. And the fact that Pacioretty said no, I think says something about the Red Wings, because he knows they have no shot. And I don't know if the other one would have been the Predators or if the other one would have been one of these sort of more less likely to, maybe Philly. I don't know. That's I might be wrong. I mean, I'm not trying to shit on the Red Wings. I'm just saying, like, it's funny that he turned it down. It was definitely not the Panthers, definitely not the Bruins. I mean, if he said no to the Bruins or said no to the Rangers or said no to, Tampa, I mean, if it's the Leafs, that's hilarious. Oh man, now that I think about it, please let one of the teams be the Leafs. That would be hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. No, the last thing I'll say on the Panthers is we know they extended Gustav Forsling for 8 years, 5.75. That was probably the best thing as a Panthers fan in the deadline, because Tarasenko is most likely a rental anyway. So that was great to see. And then most GMs, if not every GM, kind of speak after the deadline or once they're done to the press. And Cito was asked about Montour and his contract extension. And he basically said that, paraphrasing, that, they're trying to keep the core together. That's the number one priority. But that he also has to respect what each individual wants to do, basically, in other words. So
I think Montour and Reinhart want to go to free agency and see what's out there. That's the read on it, right?
I think so, because I would say, based on what Forsling took, Reinhart was probably offered something very low, maybe 7.5, maybe 7.75.
I could see an 8x8 with Reinhart. And that's still feeling kind of low for him, because he thinks he can get 9 or 10 in free agency.
Again, if he gets 10, that's 70 mil. If he gets 8, it's 64. It matters. It might be about the same, maybe a little more on paper.
And you can't assume that everybody wants to play in Florida. I mean, they all have to say that, but it could be that Reinhart wants to go closer to home. It could be that, I mean, there's all kinds of shady stuff. Maybe he knows that the Kraken want him. Maybe he knows Vancouver wants him. Maybe he knows there might be something out there for him. We'll see. Maybe not. Maybe he just wants to be Cinderella, whatever, for a summer, and then still resign with the Panthers, because that also could be some players are like that.
I get that vibe. I get the vibe that, like, he's very confident now in his game and what he can bring, so he's not worried.
He might get the Panthers to pay an extra $500K a year or whatever if he goes to free agency. Like, that's where he's at probably. And then Montour,
I think so. I think that based on what Forsling got, Reinhart would have gotten a nice deal with 5 or 6 years of no trade clause and maybe some bonus pay, instead of a lot of players do that. They get
trying to handcuff himself. He loves the core, but like he said, it's got to be guys that want to be here. So he's going to do the whole Tampa, Carolina thing. Like, don't ask for the moon if you're not a moon player. And quite frankly, Reinhart and Montour, they're excellent players, but they're more replaceable than Barkov and Tkachuk and Forsling at this point. Forsling, what he does, the dude's like plus 44. Like, and he's been a plus player, since he got here. And you watch him play, man, like you said, like, he's a stud. Like, he, two ways, man. He steals pucks on the way back. He scores at the right time. He can skate. He's super fit, super strong, and just smart. He's a very smart player. Rarely does he turn it over. Like, he's kind of the opposite of Eblak, who's been a lot better. And yeah, he's just a special guy. Every team has that one guy that, like, the rest of the league kind of knows is good, but, like, people don't realize that how much of a steal this guy is at 5.75, based on what he gives you, compared to a lot of other defensemen out there who are getting 7 or 8 and are not as reliable as this guy. He's not going to put up the 60 points in a season or 70 points, but you don't need that from him. So anyway, I couldn't believe the AAV when you told me. I mean, I know that you sent me a joke, about like how horny you were when
my dick was hard.
So that deal, but
yeah, because I was expecting, because Cito just,
I thought it was going to be 6.57, and that to me would have felt like a good deal. Like, 8 times 7, like 6.5.
We signed Forsling to 8 years and Gadjevich to 2. The numbers are going to come out later. So I'm like, oh shit, it's going to be like some crazy, like 7.5 amount, and 5.75. That's just crazy, bro. Just the fact that it's under 6, that $250K is huge, man, over 8 years. So I think that
how good that contract looks in 3 to 4 years with the cap going up.
Dude, at 35,
being a veteran at 30, 31, still fit, still giving you
35
years.
The contract ends at 35. At 33, you can trade him.
Yeah, and with his talent and how fit he is, he can play through his 30s. Really easy. And that contract's going to look like a fourth liner's contract in 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, what I was going to say is that at age 33, he's making 5.75. You can trade him if you need to
yeah, because for other teams, that will be nothing in the cap. Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. Let's wrap it up there. I got to take off.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll come back at you guys next week. We'll see how the new players are doing. We'll see how every contender is doing, what the playoff matchups are starting to look like.
Yeah.
There might be a bit of a battle between the Flyers and the Islanders. I think the Islanders have 3 games in hand.
Yeah, they're coming on strong. Yeah.
So if they win those games in hand, I think they actually pass the Flyers. So that's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Can Detroit hang on?
Detroit should definitely hang on, even though Larkin is out for a while and they're dealing with some stuff. And
yeah, they got smoked the other day, so we'll see.
And the West is going to stay about the same, but we'll do that next week. We'll get on the playoffs matchups now after the trades, and where we can kind of power rank each team based on what they did at the deadline. And it's kind of like a fresh new look for a lot of these contenders. So we'll do that next week and talk some more Panthers hockey. Hate on the leagues.
On the stretch, man. Not that far from playoffs.
Yeah, we're almost there.
A bit over a month away. It's crazy.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you for watching. Subscribe. Hit like. Leave us any comments. What trades did you like? What trades did you not like? What team do you follow? What did you think they could have done better? Just give us your thoughts on the comments. And yeah, anything else?
Connor Dewar.
Or
the Leafs.
Do her, buddy. Get her done.
All right,
guys. See ya.